Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use the modular action system and how you can implement your own actions to this plugin. So let's get started. The main purpose of the modular action system is to create fluid actions by using animation montages. For example, if you had played Dark Souls, you may realize that when you are performing an action and you input another action, they play in sequence or in combine with each other. So you can create a combo or state logic. For example, if the character is in this state, perform this action or the current action. For example, if we are in the dodge and if we input this action, do a thrust attack. Another good way to use this plugin is for selecting montages inside an action. For example, dodge is an action or dodge roll is an action. But I have different montages for the directions, and I select them by using the last input vector from the character movement component. By using character movement components, the code or the action is the same as in the character or in the AIs, because they all use the same action. And you can use this logic inside in any action. So yeah, it's really easy to work with. So I use the word of action, but what are actions to the modular action system? Actions are the things that the characters want to do. For example, in this case, a light attack is an action, but light attack montage may differ to the character or the character states. In this example, I use the right and left as the states of the character and select the correct montages inside the action. And actions have their own priority and phases. You can see the debug widget I have here, and you can see the action phase of the action. For example, when I input the left mouse button, I input the light attack to the modular action system of this character. So let's see. In initial, main, closure, and none. These are the four main phases of any action. And every phase has its own priority. So we can create things like painting actions, because over priority action may add it to queue, and system solves this all and selects the correct montages, and you can debug this by using this widget. So I want to talk about what are chain and queue for the modular action system. So what are queues to the modular action system? Queues are the you can think of them as stacks. So what I mean by that? If we add an action to the stack, the last input becomes the top. And if we add another, this action becomes the top. And we try to play the first and top action first. And if we cannot, we try to the second or the third. You get the idea. And all of the actions have expiration seconds. In this case, by default, it's set to 0.6, but you can change this expiration seconds, and it's global. So when action gets added to queue, it will be there for 0.6 seconds by default. So what are chains to the modular action system? Chains are array of actions that system will try to play them iteratively. So it will try to play the first element, and if when it completes, it will try to play the second element, and so on. So how we can use this chain system? For example, you can create a logic that, for example, drawing ball. The first action would be to getting the ball, and second would be to drawing the ball, and third would be releasing the ball. And they can all be separate actions, and have their own separate priority. So if we try to dodge during getting the ball, and we can do that, but if we are in the drawing phase, we may not. You can create this logic to your project, to your needs. So when you get the plugin, you have this folder view called Modular Action System content, which is located inside your engine, plugins, and Modular Action System content. The main data asset bases are main action base, mass decide montage base, mass gameplay attributes base. The main one is the mass action base that you need to create a child blueprint class from and create instance of that and create your own actions. Another main thing is the decide montage base, which is a decider of montages. We get to this later. Third one is the mass gameplay attribute base, which is just a data holder for any action, and you can use this for calculating damage if you are doing a pierce or I don't know, any attack type. You can use this for here, or stamina cost. I highly recommend you to use a folder to hold your own actions. I have this folder called action and action data, and I have all my actions inside here. Attack, block, bow draw, dodge, interaction, combats, and combat attribute base. You get the idea. This way we can create all of our actions in a structured view, and it's really easy to debug or change anything really. So in our example, I have this blueprints class called action attack, which is a child of mass action. So you can create this by go to your folder, right click, blueprint class, action, mass action, get the mass action base and click on that and create our own action base. Action attack 2. I will delete this and go to the attack blueprint and show what I have done here. In every action child, we have two main functions that we need to override in every action base. These are called on action phase updated, on action gets overridden. You can create this by clicking the override button and get the correct function. On action phase updated, we have 4 inputs, and these inputs are character on action chain updated, which is the current chain, input playing montage, which is the montage we are playing in the action, and input new action phase. This is just if we are getting the initial phase or the main phase or the closure phase or the action is being done. So by getting these variables, we have very options. For example, character may lose stamina, or character may update its warp target so it can locate or rotate to the points. Or we can use this for anything really, because we have the character, we have the character's components, and we can update anything inside the action. Imagination is your limit. You have everything you need to have here. We have another function called on action gets overridden inside the action base. You can use this function for things like, for example, you may update the rotation speed of your character or the speed of your character in main phase of this action, and this action may get overridden by another action, and this action may be irrelevant to this action. For example, we are in the attack and we update this variable, but when we are hit, we play the other action, so we change the variables that are not intersect. We can change back the default here when the action gets overridden, which is very helpful. I mentioned the Decide Montage database, but before we dive into that, I want to show you the default action, for example. This combat, you can ignore this. We have this thing called action playability. Inside here, we have cannot be cancelled duration. By default, it is set to 0, which is recommended. For example, we are playing an action and this is set to 1. And for 1 second, every other action cannot cancel this. I never touch this, but you may. Priority, this is the main thing. The first initial phase is the most important, because if the initial phase is prior to the playing action current phase, the inputs in action will be played, and you get the idea. Actually, we have 4 phases and none is the that phase, so we never use this. Initial has their own priority, main has their own priority, so we have various options to select. This urgent, critical, high performance text is just for remembering things more easily. Gameplay attributes, you can create any gameplay attributes and select the correct one here, and get the gameplay attributes in your data assets and use, for example, for stamina cost, anything really. Action tags are very useful for creating AIs, because we can query the action tag for the opponent, for example. So if he's trying to attack and the action tag is combat, we can use defense. You get the idea. We can get the action tag of the AIs. Montage decider is very important because it gets the correct montage and plays the correct montage to the action. The action and the decide montager will work simultaneously. For example, we have this data asset called action kick, and the montage decider of this action is decide montage kick. This view will change to your own actions or own decide montage. I will show you mine, but this view will change dramatically, but I will show you mine so you can create your own. Let's take a look at the decide montage attack. And we have this function called get montage, which is the only function that we need to overwrite, and which is the only function that we can overwrite. And you can overwrite this by clicking this box, which is not available for me right now because I have this get montage function which is overridden already, and you can create this by overriding this. So get montage, we have available inputs as character, action input, previous action, and input phase of previous action. So we have this previous action thing, and you can use this for if we are in the action of block. We can only unblock if we are in the blocking action. So if we are doing a Dark Souls thing, if we are rolling and we input the light attack, we can trust when we exit the rolling montage. You can create this logic by getting the previous action or input phase of previous action. Because we have the input character, we have everything. We can have things like states or any variable according to the character. You get the character, so imagination is your limit. In my example of the get montage, I have this variable called montages, which is just a list of enums, and these enums are sword and shield, spear, two-handed, one-handed keys. We get the characters, current states, weapon type, and we can get the correct montages by looking at this. And you can create anything that you want really. For example, you can create combo states by iterating through the character and select the correct montage and give the selected montage here. Playing section, play rate, start position. These are just play montages, play rate, play position, and a starting section of the Unreal Engine default node. One little note about get montage in your decide montage base. If the selected montage is not provided, the montage will not play. So you can use them as a if node. For example, if character is in the air, selected montage will be none because it cannot perform this light attack, for example. So how we can define the phases of the actions? The phases are defined in the animation montages. To create animation montage, right-click your default montage. These are just animation state, walking, etc. And right-click and create animation montage. And in your animation montage, right-click in the notify section and add notify state. There's a notify state called mass main action, and this animation state is defining the phases of the action. For example, when the animation gets started, this section will be the initial phase, this phase will be the main phase, and this phase will be the closure phase. And when the animation gets finished, animation state will be none. So you have created your own actions, your own decide montages. For example, here, kick, overheads, and integrated them. How you can play those actions? Go to your default character. In this example, BP humanoids, and add this component called mass modular action system base by clicking this add button and type the modular action system base. And if you want to, you can add the mass action debug widget, and you can see the what's going on in the modular action system components. Another thing to keep in mind in your modular action system settings is that there are two types of checking the correct action. The first one is event-based, second one is continuous. Event-based means that the system will check the correct montage to play when new phase gets reached or new action gets added to queue. This is very performant of doing things, but it's not as precise as continuous. The continuous one is checking every this second, check expired actions, check frequency. This is very useful for example, checking if the character is in air, and if it's in air, don't perform this action, light attack, for example. If it's set to event-based, in this case, character wouldn't know if it's in air because it hasn't checked yet, because it hasn't reached that phase. So I would recommend you to use event-based in your AIs, continuous in your players. After you add these components, go to your class settings and add this interface called mass action interface. You can do this by clicking add button and type the mass action interface. After you add this interface, go to your controller. This may be in your player controller or your AI controller. In this example, it would be in our player controller. So I am in my player controller, and I use the enhanced input action as inputs. I have this input called kick. When it gets started, it will try to input the kick action by using the get controller pawn and single action input of the interface that we just integrated, and we input them as this. In the interface, we have four functions that we can add to our character. In our character, we need to override these interface functions. Go to your modular action system inputs. In the categories, you have this functions called chain action input, single action input, chain action input with additional info, single action input with additional info, and you can just copyright this and use this. It is just easier to work with interfaces, so I use this. If you are not into this, you can always use this in your player controller and, for example, use this type of logic when the action gets started or triggered, and the player controller's modular action system is valid, do this type of action. So you may wonder, what is this thing called additional info in our interfaces? Additional info can be used for things like any type of things. Actually, while you are giving the input, you may add additional info and get the additional info in your decide montage and decide the correct montage in that way. Additional info is a list of keys, name keys, and objects that you need to create and read from, and these objects need to be inherited from this thing called mass info base, and you can create any type of data and use this for deciding the correct montage in your decide montage base. So I think I have covered everything that you need to know to create your own actions. If you have any further questions, you can drop a comment below. Also, you can join our Discord server and ask anything there, and I will be very happy to answer. And thanks for watching. See you.